Hey everyone, welcome, welcome. If you are tuning back in as a return listener, thank you so much for tuning back in and joining us again. If you're here for the first time, welcome. So happy to have you here. Uh, how has everyone's week been going? Mine has been really super busy, and which has prompted me to think about what to chat about today. Because this past week for me has been pretty hectic because I started my second per diem job at another hospital. So, in addition to my full time job, I'm now working per diem for two different hospitals in the area. And just started the second one this week. Also worked shifts at the other one this week. In addition to also working some for my full-time job, taking care of the horses, all the stuff. So it's been busy. But man, it has been so fulfilling, and it's kind of just re-energized me. Do you guys know, does everybody out there know that feeling? Like the feeling of I'm exhausted, but I'm exhausted because I've been doing something that I'm passionate about, doing something that, excites you, doing something that makes you feel, energized. So like you're exhausted, but you're physically exhausted, but at the same time, you're emotionally and mentally like you're energized, you're excited, you feel like you're doing something with your day. And it actually kind of creates this energy around you, which is really cool and exciting. If you so the thing I wanted to chat about is how different life can end up looking from what we thought it would look like when we started out. And the reason I say that is because if you have listened to any of my channel before, you know that I worked full time in a hospital for many many years. Really dedicated my career to working in trauma, in intensive care, critical care, kind of moved up the ranks of like in leadership positions. And my goal always was to do that. Like that's, excuse me, like that was always the goal, is get really good at taking care of patients, get really good at understanding, how the system works, how to make it better, focus on, best practices, initiatives, protocols, things that were going to make the system run to the best of its ability. So, the system as a whole could take the best care of patients possible. And I really, really dedicated my career to that. And my vision was always to kind of continue to work up the ranks, slowly but surely, and end up in a leadership position, um, you know, and eventually get to a place where I felt like I had a lot of ability to make a lot of impact um, in the overall healthcare realm. Um, and I was doing that actually pretty successful. And a few years ago, and there was a lot of factors in this, so, but long story short, a few years ago, just the way things were happening, a lot of factors, both kind of internal and external, I decided to step away from the hospital, and I decided to step away from working in that arena. And that was a tough decision for me because I felt like I had spent all these years kind of building the path, building the plan, building the career, working towards something. And I was progressing, and I was, moving up the ladder, or whatever you want to call it. And it was scary to make the decision to walk away from that and kind of all of a sudden go a completely different direction. But that's the decision I made. I made the decision to leave, to take a job. It was still a job in the healthcare realm, but it wasn't the same thing. It allowed me a lot more flexibility. I wasn't in the hospital. So completely a different path. And I realized that, I struggled for a while with kind of feeling like I had lost my identity. Because all of a sudden, this thing that you have been working towards, this life that you have been envisioning and building and working towards for so many years, you just left it and you went and did something different. And for a while, I kind of was like, who am I? Like, it was a little bit of an identity crisis. And then fast forward to, about a year ago, I kind of realized, like, man, I really miss taking care of patients. I really miss that environment. I really miss, being at the bedside and just taking good care of people. And so I decided to just go start working at some hospitals per diem. I don't want to give up my full-time role that I have, because it's like flexible. And one of the reasons the main reason I did it was to allow flexibility to do the stuff with the horses and compete with them and take them all over the country. So I don't want to give up that flexibility. Like, that was kind of the catalyst. But I did want to have the fulfillment of doing the things that I am passionate about, and the things that I'm good at, and the things that I've spent a lot of years building a lot of skill up to be able to do. So I'm like, okay, well, work per diem, work a few shifts a month at the hospital, and kind of, that's my way to be able to still have that fulfillment, a few times a month. And I'm loving it. I've already been working for the one hospital now for several months. And like I said, I just started with the second one recently. And it's just been so nice to just go into work and take care of patients, and that be the end of it. Like, none of the stuff that, I had to worry about or manage or deal with, when I was previously in leadership roles and things like that. Like, all of that is off my plate. And like, so I just get to go in and just feel like I'm taking really good care of people. And it's just so fulfilling. And I'm like, man, I should have done this so long ago. And that's where I'm going with this story. Sometimes we think we want something, and sometimes it's okay for life to end up looking different than what we thought it was going to look like. And that's a struggle for us sometimes, or at least I can only speak for myself. It is a struggle sometimes for me if I feel like I have had a goal, or if I feel like I've had a vision for something for my life, and then life ends up taking a different form. Sometimes I struggle with that, because, you're like, well, wait, am I giving up on what I wanted to do? Like, did I fail at what I wanted to do? Is that why it's not happening? Like, am I just telling myself I want something different because I didn't get the thing I wanted originally? Like, I kind of get in my head about that. And if you're somebody who gets in your head about it too, I'm here to encourage you to not do that. I think it is okay for life to look different than we thought it was going to. And as long as you have, had the honest conversation with yourself about what it is that you want, and you realize that you can change your mind. You know, that's the other thing. Like, we make these visions for ourselves about what we want based on the information we have at the time, and based on where we are in life. And, you know, and all of that changes as the years go by. So what you visioned, or what you thought you wanted, or the goals that you set 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they're probably going to change over time. And if they do, that's okay. And, you know, the horses are the same way. Because it's been kind of a childhood dream of mine. Like, I wanted to have a farm. I wanted to have the horses in my backyard. I wanted to basically take horses that were, you know, problem horses, you know, so to speak, and retrain them and rehab them, and at the same time use those horses to offer like therapeutic riding to children who were like struggling with like mental health problems, as like a therapeutic riding center. And that was always my dream from when I was very little. And I won't be as bold as to say I don't want that at all anymore, because if somebody just handed me a farm tomorrow and said, "Here, it is yours to run," I would still take a crack at that. I would still not want to waste that opportunity, so I would still take a crack at doing all that. But like, there's also a part of me that's almost relieved that it didn't happen. You know, like, I do have 2 horses. I have horses, but I don't have them in my backyard. They're about 5 minutes down the road from me at a farm. And I pay to use the stalls and the pasture there. And so it's kind of like it's like I have my little piece of that little, you know, of that farm. But it's just not in my backyard. And I'm not going to have, you know, 20 other horses there to do therapeutic riding and stuff like that. Like, I only have my 2 horses that I barrel race with. And I've realized, and I'm much older now, right? And that's what I'm saying. Things change. Everything changes as time goes by. And one of the things for me that has changed is I'm older now. And it takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort to manage a farm, to run a farm, to train horses, to take care of horses. It takes a lot of effort. And, you know, it's tough, especially, you know, when you're working a full-time job. And now in my case, I'm working a full-time job plus some side jobs, you know, to make some extra money. And I barely have time to do what I need to do for just my 2 horses. And, you know, that, like, I think about what would be involved now that I understand more about what is involved now in taking care of a farm, taking care of horses. Like, I'm older now, so I'm a little more tired now. You know, like, all those things they all come into play. But the bottom line is, you know, I'm almost kind of relieved that the farm didn't happen the way I thought it was going to happen. I mean, horses are still in my life. And that's part of the catalyst for me starting this podcast, is I wanted to figure out a way to still do something, to maybe help someone out there with mental health and, you know, like, living their best life. And so, since I couldn't do it in person with horses on an in-person farm in my backyard, I was like, well, let me try, you know, social media. Let me try podcasting. Like, let's see what we can do with that. And that was the catalyst for starting this channel. And again, it's not what I thought it was going to be. It's not the life that I envisioned a long time ago when I was dreaming about, what I'm going to be when I grow up one day, it looks different. I have the horses in my life. I'm trying to reach out, and do something to help people, be mentally healthy and well. Um, I'm still involved in healthcare and taking care of patients. Like, all this stuff is still in my life and I'm still experiencing it and enjoying it, but it looks different than what I thought it would look like. And for me anyway, and everybody is going to be different, but for me anyway, I just kind of am so happy that, like, it worked out the way that it did. Like, I would never have designed it like this, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I didn't foresee this being the way it is, but I'm so happy that it ended up being the way that it is. And I say it all the time. I love this saying, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. And I think that is just so true. And I also think it's true that, God knows what we want more than we know what we want. And sometimes it's okay to let the universe kind of take you in the direction that it wants to take you in. And don't misconstrue this. I'm not saying to give up on your dreams. I'm not saying to give up on your goals. I'm not saying that when things get hard, just throw in the towel and pivot to another direction. I'm not saying any of that. If it's still your dream, if it's still your goal, if it's still what you want, then hardcore, keep at it. But what I'm saying is, if you get to a place in life where things just aren't making sense anymore, like you feel like just the universe is pulling you in another direction, in a different direction, I think it's okay to explore that and really have that honest talk with ourselves and be like, is it okay to pivot and to change direction? Like, would that be so bad? Would I be okay with that? Is the thing that I thought I wanted even still the life that I want? Or did I change my mind somewhere and never really realize it? Or did the circumstances around me change and I haven't really realized it? And is it okay to say, you know what? Like, I'm going to go a different direction. And I'm going to do another path, and life is going to look different than I originally wanted it to, but maybe that's okay. So that's just my little 2 cents. Just the past handful of years, I feel like my life has really, I feel like it's really been like shooken up, in a good way. I feel like in the past handful of years for me, I've just made a lot of decisions that have taken me off of the path that I thought I always wanted to be on. And those decisions have pivoted me to a different path in a different direction. And even though I still kind of have the same passions going on in my life, the way they look and everything about the way life looks is so different than the original path that I was on. And for me, it's been good. It's been good, and I'm very happy that, I kind of I felt all the signs pointing towards, hey, I know this is the path that you thought you wanted, but like maybe reconsider it. And there was a lot of little things going on in my world, a handful of years ago that really just made me feel like that. It just made me feel like God wants me to do something different. Like the universe is telling me, to be flexible with what you're doing. And that's the other thing too. I say a lot, be determined, about your goals, be determined about what things you want in your life, but be flexible, when it comes to what does it look like? How does it look? I want these things in my life, but I can be flexible as to what the details look like, and how I incorporate the details, and how I design my life, day to day, week to week, month to month. Hopefully that makes some sense to somebody out there. Hopefully it helps somebody who might be struggling themselves with figuring out, what direction to go, with figuring out who they are, how they want their world to look. And so just food for thought. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your week, and I hope that you tune back in. That would be amazing. Please share this podcast with anyone else that you think might like to hear it, and we'll talk again soon. All right, bye.